So the first of our quick videos about the four time management tools for our sessions is the weekly routine. And this is basically saying that every week you're going to have the same class meetings and the same office hour opportunities, whether with your teachers or for your ASG office hours. And so how can you plan your week around that and have that a very consistent allocation of your time that meets your assignment needs, that gives you rest, and just maximizes your efficiency. President Obama has a nice little quote here. He followed a routine so that he could get his workouts in, and apparently Michelle made fun of him for that. Here is the details. You've got to keep in mind a lot of stuff that goes on every week. You have all of these things and you have limited time to do them. And so there involves kind of some prioritization, and we're going to model that. What do you put down first? You have this blank sheet. What do you put on there first? Do you put your class times? Do you put your sleep on there first? Probably if you have kids, you're putting your childcare times and your transportation kinds of things and your constraints on there. And I've definitely planned complicated weekly routines with people. And if we take an hour sometime, could totally help you find a solution, kind of one-on-one, go through it and build it and ask you all the questions along the way. But here you go. I would say, first of all, you know your executive cabinet meeting time. And so you put that on there and block it off. You know your class times. Not all classes are, of course, going to have a required meeting time. And so it can be a little different if you have purely web courses. But go ahead and put down a block of time when any required meetings are, whether synchronous online or actual face-to-face on campus. And I think you should also be thinking hard about where to put a block of time that will not move for the classes that don't have a required meeting. That's really important. But you may not know at this point in the planning what the best time is. So plan around the ones that are a constraint, that have a for sure thing. And how do you do that? Well, the principle to follow is that after class is better than right before class to get going on the homework. You don't want to be doing homework at the last minute. That's stressful. I just had math right here. And so what better time than right now after math to take maybe a 10-minute break. I'll take a 10-minute break here, but then maybe that's a good time to start the homework. And so you might plan like this, to put your homework time directly after class in the gap before your next class. This is not saying you can't take a break. It's just saying that it's fresh on your mind. And I know you've been sitting for 2 hours, and so go put on the music and do your workout for 20 minutes or something, but come back to it and get started on the homework at least, because now, before that homework is due on Wednesday, you've had a sense of how hard it's going to be. And you now know if you need to get to office hours before Wednesday, or if you need to come see a tutor during your flexible time, or hang out with a classmate and just go over it. So you want to see that as soon as possible to plan accordingly during your flexible time for finishing things. So you're seeing the principle. After class is better than before. For some classes, it's not as important as for others. For example, writing here, there's a class where it's more about an ongoing assignment to chip away on. And going to lecture, sure, maybe you're going to come away warmed up and ready to write and brainstorm, and you want to capitalize on that. But it could probably be more flexible, say, than something like a math class, where you're going to always have homework due the next day, and the next day. Okay, so that's just illustrating how you might plan your weekly routine. I won't go into too much detail on it because everyone's life is a little different. I'll just point out maybe a couple more things and also then emphasize some things you might not bring to mind as motivated people who need a wake up about health. Here is kind of a piece of math, for example, or a science class that doesn't come to mind. Homework is on your mind every day, but you also want to be putting in some ongoing test prep. Your teacher's study guide won't come out until probably a week before the midterm exam, week 3 or week 4 or week 5, whenever it is, depending on how many midterms you have. But you're going to want to plan for test prep. Maybe it's just the weekly quiz you'll prepare for. And maybe even if there's no quiz, you'll use past quizzes to self-test. But you need to do something that's focused on memory on a regular basis. And this is probably a good moment to also mention kind of the idea of repetition. If I am really in a subject perhaps that I struggle with, let's say math is my tough subject, I know that in math class, I'm going to have new things that are going to challenge me, and I don't want to be seeing them for the first time when I go to class that day. And your teacher knows this too. They've probably put in the homework on Friday that leads to today. They've probably given you exposure 1 on a tough concept, whether by having you read something or by giving you the foundational kind of problems for it. And then that means class time is exposure 2, and you're clearing up the things that were really like, what the heck? You know, I see it the first time, I've got questions, but then class is kind of clearing it up. I might have a little bit of a question left, but I'm feeling better. And then the homework is, you know, where I feel really good. And now I've had 3 exposures to the new idea. And guess what? I'm going to have a new idea for the next section on Wednesday. So it's a good thing I got to clarity before then. Depending on the nature of your class, it's more or less important to really have your several repetitions to build understanding for every class meeting. Math is just a good example because for a lot of folks, it's really critical they do that or they'll start to get behind. And so I want to really get to that point of comfort before I have a new topic coming at me the next day. So that's the building understanding part. Let's talk about the memory part. We said test prep is about strengthening memory. We've built understanding up here with our 3 repetitions. That's just throwing out kind of a arbitrary number. But the building understanding, yes, we're doing that by going to class, by doing homework. But what we haven't done is tested our memory. And so we really need to strengthen / refresh our memory. There's a statistic, it's called the forgetting curve. Who came up with it? Ebbinghaus or somebody? But there's a great principle to it. And they say after you've gotten clear on something and moved on to something else, as from Monday to Wednesday, if you're starting a new chapter or something, but your memory is going to lose about half a day. If you don't see it at all, you only remember about half as much the next day. And it looks like a curve. If it was a graph and this was everything, this was like 100% of what I had learned yesterday on Monday. You know, Monday I was at 100%, but now on Tuesday, they're saying I'm going to be dropping down about half. You know, I'm down here. And on Wednesday, going to be another half down. And then on Thursday, if I don't do anything to boost this, I'm going to keep, you know, I'm going to maintain some familiarity, but every day I'm losing half. So what do I need to do? I need to reset the curve. I need to spike it back up and let it start again and spike it back up. And you're not necessarily going to do that every day. And of course, class is not completely on a new thing. It's going to reset the curve for you. But the point is, once a week, you're looking back at all of the past weeks to reset the curve. And I think self-testing is the way to do that. Whether you're just looking back through your homework and covering up the steps that you wrote and starting from the problem and saying, if I was faced with this, do I know what to do? Or something more involved. And that's why we have tutors too, to help you find a good way to do stuff like that. And of course, your teacher's office hours are the best way since they know what you're going to be tested on. But okay, enough on that. That's just some learning principles. You're building understanding, but you're also strengthening regularly. And it's on your routine so that it doesn't have to wait until midterm week, because that's stressful because you have 2 midterms on the same week and an essay due. And so you really have to be chipping away at it in an ongoing way. More on that in the term calendar. A little bit more about this subject of the weekly routine. The office hours weren't on there yet, were they? You have a certain number of ASG office hours that go with your tuition waiver. And so this is the principle here is you don't plan those first. You plan your homework and your class times first, And you really can't do that until probably Friday of week 1. So I think you should probably say, or maybe Wednesday or Thursday, but certainly you can't do it on Monday. After your first class meetings, you know enough from syllabus day, when the teacher walks you through what your life will be like for the next 3 months, then you can do this part of planning your routine. And then after that, so maybe week 2, you'll know your office hours. Maybe Friday of week 1, you'll know your office hours. I don't know when they're due for Dr. and Rosina, but you would plan them on there at whatever point you've planned your class times. The one is before the other. And I'm sure that our staff in student life would say exactly the same. They would say, school is priority for you. Plan your learning needs and family and obligations like that, and then plan your office hours around it. Okay, let's see, a couple more things on this. Don't lose track of your health, and don't think that just by working harder, you're going to get more done. Sometimes taking a break is actually the key to recovery. This is kind of a, I don't know if this is a good suggestion, but the afternoon nap is actually really a great thing for getting me back. If I've worked and it's 4:30 p.m. and I have something important to do, like a class I'm in, I take a nap. And I'm an older person, so I can probably go back to bed easier, and I'm not going to lose sleep because of my nap. You don't want to take a nap too late in the evening, but a nap is a wonderful way to clear your head and be ready to hit the next thing. A 90-minute is your sleep cycle length, and 3 hours is probably pushing it for an afternoon nap. But even a 20 or 30-minute power nap is really restorative. Just set a timer, or it will turn into 90 or into 3 hours, because we are on kind of a 90-minute cycle as humans. A little bit more, the key to maintaining your routine once you've made it is not letting other things invade it unless they must. So what we're really getting at here is boundaries. And you'll probably have other topics as student leaders where you do have to think about my priorities and my boundaries, and how do I communicate to people my limits? Because there's only so much I can do. If I keep pushing past that, it's going to harm my personal life, it's going to harm my health, and we've seen really sad effects of that when people do push that. So don't underestimate the importance of saying no. And there's great ways to say no. I'm probably not the best person to talk about that, so I'll leave it to others to coach you on what are some ways to say no without using the word no. And just know your priorities. And you've got my opinion already about what your priorities should be in terms of your health and so on, and your classes in relation to obligations outside of those. I like President Obama's quote here again. By working out, he can mentally be content to do all of that burdensome work he needed to do, because his physical health isn't slipping and slipping and slipping. Also, it clears your blood of all the stress hormones that are going on amid being under pressure. And so exercise can be really restorative too. And it also gives you good sleep. If you've got exercise in your routine, you're going to sleep better that day, and now mentally you're better. Maybe it's a moment to also share some sleep statistics. If you do not sleep on the night following a lot of learning, you are reducing the amount you're going to remember. You're reducing the benefit of all your work on that learning that day. So it's really important that you do have good sleep and some daily exercise, or at least some regular good exercise will put your body into recovery mode, and you'll sleep better for longer that day. Sleep really also, and you wake up after good sleep, you're more ready to do processes like integration and so on that are important for roles that involve complicated thinking. Okay, won't go into too much detail about that. I think we'll end the weekly routine video there. The next video is going to be on the term calendar. See you then in just a moment.